Dial a song. They might be giants, has this thing called Dial a Song. And every week this station plays the latest one on They Might Be Giants Dial a Song radio network. I know it sounds confusing, never mind.
Dial a Song is a service created by They Might Be Giants when they were in a troubled time. Eventually, it became a legendary cornerstone of the band. Dial a Song ran for over 20 years and has gotten 2 revivals. Most of the famous songs you'll hear from the band, Purple Toupee, Istanbul, Dr. Worm, and Don't Let's Start, they all originated from Dial a Song in some way or another. In this video, I will go through the history of the Dial a Song service and its claim to fame. In 1983, when They Might Be Giants was only a duo band, they began playing shows with a name that they took from the 1971 film of the same name. One of the shows they played was the legendary 23 show in January. It is known as the 23 show for the amount of coincidences involving the number 23. The show was on January 23rd, Linnell was 23 years old, 23 people attended the show, $23 were made, and 23 songs were played, although They Might Be Giants only playing 22 songs. In the middle of that year, Flansburgh's apartment had been broken into, and while riding his bicycle, Linnell crashed and broke his wrist. This moment was a troubling time for the band as they could not play live, but they ended up settling on creating Dial a Song, a service where a new song would be played every few hours or so. This had the band always thinking of new songs to put on Dial. The band used a machine called a Recorder Call 675 years to create this service. The Recorder Call could input cassette tapes that people would hear when calling. This allowed the band to record their songs onto the cassette and input them into the machine. The band had to keep replacing the machine as it would break in many ways. Who knows how many machines I had to replace, and how many cassettes they had gone through. 718-387-6962. Just a regular call to Brooklyn. That was the slogan for their new creation. The first 3 songs that had been ever heard on the service were Swing is a Word, How Much Cake Can You Eat, and I'm Getting Sentimental Over You. Out of all 3, 2 of them got a remastered mix that were on a 2-disc compilation called Then, which was a collection of their songs from the 80s. How Much Cake Can You Eat never got a remastered version and can be heard on bootlegs and unofficial releases. Originally called Dial a Machine, they rebranded as Dial a Song and thus the legacy began. In 1984, when Flans and Linnell were back to doing shows at places like Dorinka and the Pyramid Club, a froggy-voiced person called the band and said, "We have a new song, and we want to get it recorded. Can we do that? Just wanted to leave a message." This excerpt was featured in the song I'm Deaf and was featured on a select few demo tapes from 1985, most notably the demo tape from the same year, which acted as a test album for the band. Every now and again people would call in and a select few would leave messages. One caller was able to provide vocals for a song called Confusing the Mind. One of the most famous calls, however, is a call between a girl named Gloria and an unnamed man. They called for over 20 minutes, firstly talking about the Dial a Song service and about one of their possible slogans, "A baby is born in India every time you call this number." The rest of the call wasn't put on record because, as Flansburgh said, it was too freaky to put on a record. And when I say record, it means that this song was actually put on an EP, with ominous needle drop music, which was also heard from a demo of Doris Cunningham, which was a fake interview tape that the Johns made with their friend, Jennifer Neff, which also provided locals for a song titled I Need Some Lovin'. On the They Might Be Giants podcast and Clock Radio, more excerpts of the call were put on the services, ones that had previously not been heard before. Two other recordings include Fat Danny Aykroyd, which was a message left by a caller who wanted to hear Flansburgh say messages at the end of the songs, intentionally or unintentionally insulting Flansburgh, comparing him to a fatter version of comedian Dan Aykroyd. And the other recording is a friendly message from the New York Police Department, which was featured in reverse on the song I'll Sink Manhattan, which was featured on an EP from 1988. In 1989, an unknown band sent a tribute track to the Giants through Dial-A Song titled I Might Be Giants Too. Flansburgh said that the song was made by Deep Blue Something, but when asked about it on their MySpace page, Deep Blue Something said that they didn't make the song, and that they'd never heard of it. To this day, no one knows who actually made the song. In 1994, a person made a bootleg called The Power of Dial-A Song, which included 62 songs, some never heard before. This bootleg is the most well known, and the longest bootleg out of the many others made over the years. A few years down the line, a second bootleg was released called Free When You Call From Work, which included many of the same songs as the first one, but with added whistling and different messages. Another bootleg was released another few years later called More Power to Ya, later titled Power of Dial-A Song 2, More Power to You. In 2002, a compilation album was released called Dial-A Song 20 Years of They Might Be Giants. This compilation could be around the time where Dial-A Song was introduced to the shallow demographic, but then again you could argue that these guys didn't really care for the name. Most of the songs in this collection originated from Dial-A Song, or were at least featured on it. A few years later, the Giants created a site which included the Dial-A Song page where every few times you visit, there'd be a new song you can listen to. Songs include Subway Token Back to Brooklyn, Mainstream USA, and Darkened Metric. When the site was updated in 2011, Dial-A Song was updated so whenever you hit a target, a new song would play. Most of these songs were from Unlimited, which was an event on eMusic in that same year. In 2003, the Giants created Clock Radio, a service you could download that worked in the same way as a radio, just like the title. Many songs were on the service, including ones previously unreleased, such as Harker Boy, which was a finished version of The Writings on the Wall. The podcast was also released 2 years later, and yet Dial-A Song was still growing strong, now being known as a legendary cornerstone of the band. It would have probably stayed for longer until things began going downhill in 2006.
They might be giants, I know, but did you find?
In 2006, Dial-A Song was becoming harder to maintain. The machines they purchased had to be replaced frequently due to constant breakdowns and issues with them. So they bought a new vintage machine that lasted 2 years. The machine was reliable, but the stress it was put under soon rendered it broken and destroyed. After the final song went through, which was demo for We Live in a Dump, the Giants disconnected the number. Many fans of They Might Be Giants were distraught, some purchasing the original number to release their own demos, but this didn't last much longer. While this was going on, members of This Might Be a Wiki made a new service in 2010 called Dial-A-Wiki, where using the Google Voice, people could listen to different rare obscure songs from the Giants made in the 80s, but due to issues with the voice system, it was closed down shortly after. What happened to They Might Be Giants podcast and Clock Radio? Clock Radio hadn't been updated since 2008, and after years of inactivity, the service was officially closed in 2013, and replaced with the They Might Be Giants app. This app seemed to accomplish the same goals as Clock Radio, but only studio releases could be heard through the app. And the podcast continued to go until it was discontinued in 2014. It managed to do the same thing as Dial-A Song, but didn't exactly live up to its name. The last podcast was a lone recording of a remix of the song called Tesla, known as the Tesla 2468 remix. Although the whole rarity scene had seemed to collapse in on itself, it did set up perfectly for something that surprised many. In 2014, They Might Be Giants officially announced that Dial-A Song would be returning in 2015, with a whole new range of songs. Every week you could listen into a song, either on YouTube, the Dial-A Song website, or on a new phone service, with a new number, 844-387-6962. There was also a side bonus where every few weeks, a new bonus track would be heard on the bonus track section, including a re-recording of one of They Might Be Giants' very first ditties, The Power of Dial-A Song. 2015 came and went. With 52 new songs, 2 albums, and 22 bonus tracks, Dial-A Song was a success and would eventually return in 2018. But in my opinion, nothing could beat the original. Out of the new service, all of the songs were put onto 4 albums: Glean, Why, Phone Power, and More Murder Remains. Glean and Why consisted of the songs from weeks 1 to 35, and Phone Power included the last few 17. Any other tracks not included in the first 3 albums were later put onto More Murder Remains. Miscellaneous songs that weren't exactly fit to be put on the record at that particular time. 2018 Dial-A Song had a different format. There were no bonus tracks, and for the first few weeks they played tracks that had been previously heard on I Like Fun, which had been released in the beginning of the year. The Dial-A Song tracks were put into 2 albums, The Escape Team and My Murder Remains, which had the bonus track More Murder Remains that I mentioned before. After that recap, a lot of you people are asking, why did I choose to talk about this small startup by some obscure band that most of you have probably never heard of? Dial-A Song, in my opinion, was a creative and innovative idea that many enjoyed, and I thought that it definitely warranted a video of this variety. I want people to learn about Dial-A Song and maybe give a listen. Not many people know about it, and there are not many videos talking about it. And one more thing to address. This is the last video for 2019. I had a great time and got up to over 400 subscribers, which is a great feat. Thank you all so much for getting Suicide Mouse analysis video to 10k views and 100 likes. 200 likes now as I'm recording this. I appreciate the support and I love each and every single one of you. Another thing I wanted to say is that things are going to be different in 2020. I will begin Engine Adventures, a series I've had in production since 2018, and I will be airing 26 episodes. And when the series is over, I will return to my normal schedule. I'm also going to be changing up some things like recording and maybe different editing. I will possibly get Sony Vegas. I'm not exactly sure. Only time will tell. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel, and I will see you all next year. Until then, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Half a boy and nothing else. Put me in the driver's seat. I wanna make promises I can't keep. Half a boy and nothing else. You were once my sole desire. You could have built me up, but you made me lie to you. You never took me serious, and my heart betrays my every word. Now love's not only for the curious. You say the writing's on the wall. Well, I should know, 'cause I wrote it all.